Thank you very much, Sean. A real pleasure to be here today again. Hermanos, padres, I was just reprimanded for breaking away with the format and font of the presentations. It's just a visual statement that when you deal with different cultures, you have to do things differently sometimes. So anyway, let's go. CORE is the best way for the order to engage Hispanic Catholics. This is because CORE provides a more suitable and meaningful opportunity to introduce the order in Hispanic parish communities. CORE goes at the heart, pun intended, of what the order is, the essence of the order. But let me clarify why the emphasis on Hispanic Catholics. And it's simply that they now represent more than 40% of the entire Catholic population of the United States, while Latino Hispanics represent only 18% of the entire US population. In the Catholic Church, Hispanics represent more than 40%. And what is important to notice too is the trend that this has. Pew Research projects that in a couple of decades, Hispanics will be now the majority of the Catholic population. Today, 2/3 of Catholics that show up to Mass, 35 and under, are Hispanics. So this is the reality. You didn't choose it. This is what's happening right now out there in pretty much every single diocese of the United States. This is a fact. So the order has been for years now doing efforts to attend to this reality. And under the leadership of Supreme Knight Patrick Kelly, 6 major initiatives has been taken on for the future, for the 150th anniversary of the order. And one of them is precisely Hispanic development. And we want to adapt to become responsive to the spiritual needs of this demographic group. Notice that it says we will adapt to become. It doesn't say we're going to adapt our resources and our programs. We're going to translate all our marketing campaigns and videos. No, it is us. As John was saying, we are the message. It is our testimony, the message. That's the genius of Father McGivney, which is very much in tradition with the Catholic Church, because we are a Catholic organization. Just remember your promises of becoming a knight. So, let me go back to the essence, which also John did me the favor of actually quoting that homily. But look at those specific points of what Father McGivney, Blessed Father McGivney, intended as the end of this organization. This vast structure, the insurance side of the order, the programs, everything that we have are the means to that end. Sometimes we bury that end, that zeal for souls, in their great ideas to measure and control everything. And we can asphyxiate that goal, that end. So let's make sure that what drives every single effort is always this zeal for soul. Okay, let's go back. Let's try to land this plane. So what is the specific adaptation, the becoming of this Hispanic engagement? How does it look like at the council level, at the state level? 2 ingredients. The development of Knight of Columbus state, diocesan Hispanic leaders, and parish-based cores. So it's going to be a reverse formula of what you guys are predominantly doing right now out there, which is where a council already exists, motivate that council, invite that council to create core in that parish. Here, where there is no council, where there is no Knight of Columbus presence, bring CORE as the introductory, as the vestibule, as was Damian was saying. This is the entrance for them to understand what the order is. And again, it's not for the purpose of growing. It is that seal of souls. We want the presence of the Knight of Columbus in each parish because we know it strengthens the life of that parish. Developing those type of leaders is nothing new for the order, actually. Since the beginning, the order developed men that were meant to go and explain what the order is in dioceses. How do you think in less than 3 decades, the order was founding in the Philippines, in Mexico, in Canada, all over United States? If you read parish priest, Father McGivney actually didn't think that Knight of Columbus should go beyond Connecticut because he understood that, or he believed that his solution was very much for the men of that time and of that specific New England reality. But look the impact that this great idea, that seal for souls, has had. Monsignor Chavez, a good friend of the order, doing research about what the order was in Mexico, found letters from the Mexican Bishop Conference asking the Vatican to instruct the bishops of the United States to bring the Knight of Columbus to Mexico because of such a great idea, such a good way to organize men, to live their faith, to keep rooted in the sacramental life of the parish. Because look at the impact that such a formula has, the creativity that it creates. But first, we need to develop those leaders that can go and bring that vehicle, that resource, that message of CORE. There's 8 gentlemen here among you who have freely decided to be part of this experiment in many ways, of this pilot program, as we're calling it, from 5 different jurisdictions. These men, and we're very much learning of this effort, just as CORE started a few years ago. It's a learning experience. These men will be trained to become authentic missionary disciples. Hermanos, brothers, you all have heard how the entire culture is against our proposal. Even our name is very countercultural. Everything that we propose to invite men to live their faith is very countercultural. Do you think that if you don't have an actual strong relationship with the Lord, you're gonna organize a small group of men to form themselves in the faith that you are trying to share with them? Obviously not. Nobody can give what doesn't have. So we want to develop these men to be authentic missionary disciples. We're thinking of the name Misioneros de San Juan Diego missionaries. We want to model this a lot in what this great saint, discreet, humble saint, did for the church in this continent. And I'll explain later why. They have to be bilingual. They need to understand the reality of both those cultures. We're going to go deeper into that in a moment. Now let's talk about the vehicle, CORE. CORE is a more suitable and meaningful instrument to introduce the order in a parish because it lowers those barriers to entry. How many of you have actually attempted to establish a new council? Hands? Some of you. Did you ever see the 12 steps to develop a council of the Knight of Columbus, right? Again, we very much remain here are the 12 steps and that's it. And we forgot of the essence of what we're trying to bring. So sometimes we get lost in the forms. You need to know all the terminology that we, Knight of Columbus, know, all the forms that exist. Let's move aside that and let's focus on what is the essence of the order. faith formation, prayer together, and fraternity, and bring that to a parish. A priest will be begging you to implement this in his parish if you focus on that. And also, CORE allows for a lot of creativity, which allows you to plug into the Catholic, Hispanic faith, Latino faith. So, what is the specific ask to you as leaders of the evangelization and faith formation team in your jurisdiction? Number one, prayers in Spanish if you can, so that God can understand you. Now, take serious that point. Just to bring men together to pray in the night of Columbus, to me, was we're doing something very right here. That's the path. But really, what we can contribute is something. But it's all in God's hand. It's all God's providence. So prayers is going to be an important part of your efforts. Identify a Hispanic leader that shares that zeal for souls in your jurisdiction and invite him to be part of your team. Please don't select the 8 that we have already selected. They can definitely work with you, absolutely. But we need to include brother knights that more naturally can engage with the Hispanic Catholics. Brother Miguel Flores was telling me how instead of bringing the council offer, bringing CORE is a more natural way to introduce the order to any Hispanic community. So that's why it is important that you include somebody in your team that can help you engage this community. Number 2, if there exists already a Hispanic team in your jurisdiction, engage them. They also will help you identify potentially that person that can be part of your own team. And explain to them what CORE is. And all of them, train them on what CORE is. They will need it. It will help them. Agents as well. If agents learn what CORE is, especially Hispanic bilingual agents, they many times, as our Vice President of Hispanic Sales here can attest to here, many times agents are the first one knocking the door of a parish that has never heard of the Night of Columbus because it's a Hispanic parish. And they very much need to understand that context. What is the Night of Columbus? And number 4, understand the nature of your efforts. The message, what you are bringing, needs to be an enculturated message. What does this mean? Well, it needs to be of an introductory nature. S.K. Kelly said that most Hispanics have no cultural attachment to the Night of Columbus. That's a stark contrast to many of us in this room. Many, if not most of you, have fathers and grandfathers who were knights. Yet virtually all the Hispanics we need to reach will be the first knight in their family. Let me go back to that culture word. How many of you have heard the word enculturation before? Okay. So I'm speaking about culture that identifies people, that identifies group of men, bodies of men. Christopher Dawson, a great Catholic historian, argued that there's no such thing as a Catholic American culture. He explained why, because you have the Irish, the Italians, the Polish. There's not, since the origin, a shared theological vision. That was his argument. I think in the last 4 decades or so, since mass media and the globalization and the growing communication between communities and peoples, I believe that there is such a Catholic American culture, especially among the boomers generation. But Hispanics, different from Americans, we do have a very strong Catholic culture. Dr. Guzman Carriquiri, he was the secretary of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, argued that the apparition of Our Lady of Guadalupe was the founding moment of the American nations. And I believe if you have time to get to know a Hispanic, the way we live our faith is different from the way you live your faith. So, and also take another point into account. The Knight of Columbus very much has its own culture. So here you're dealing with three different cultures. And I don't know if you have heard ever the argument in diocese that could we make away with all that Hispanic ethnicity culture thing and just focus on what actually we have in common, our common faith? And the Magisterium has answered that actually. Faith is incomplete if it is not lived in a culture. John Paul II wrote a lot about culture because he understood what culture was. He understood that what shaped a culture was that shared theological vision. Benedict XVI, there is no such things as a culture, as a faith without culture. So you cannot separate that. That's how we live our faith. That's the way faith was given to us. So actually, culture will be a vehicle for evangelization, a perfect environment for evangelization. And look the way we have been speaking here about evangelization. You were also tasked here with evangelizing every single member of the order. Meant that the only criteria to become a member of this organization is to be a Catholic, actually. So what is meant with evangelization is to live, to understand that baptismal vocation and live every single day of your life accordingly. That's what is evangelization. That's what you are called to do. So, again, let's land this plane. How does this look like in your world, in what you're implementing, CORE? There's already many resources in Spanish, in CORE, precisely for you to be able to engage Hispanic community. Somebody was asking me yesterday if Into the Bridge already exists in Spanish. Yes, it does. The 12 videos are already available there. And I hope this fall we can also deliver Into the Bridge family series in Spanish as well. And we are making a lot of efforts. And I want to recognize, again, the Department of Evangelization and Faith Formation for doing everything it can to produce original content in Spanish, not only a translation, but original content, thinking of that specific Catholic community so that that message is as well inculturated. We need to harmonize the life of these three cultures that are meeting in CORE. That's the node. That's where they're going to encounter. And that is going to produce yet another culture, another Catholic identity that is going to have an impact in this country and in this church. I'll give you a few ideas of what you can also start organizing in CORE, even though we haven't provided those in printed material or in a booklet or as a resource. You can organize pilgrimage to Marian shrines, to Marian chapels. Hispanics love that. We love that. Organize something around the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. You will have Hispanics showing up there. As sometimes you make the joke of, I learned it yesterday, somebody translated for me what it means, a Catholic, a C and E Catholic, Christmas and Easter. So you can add the G for the Hispanics, Guadalupe, Christmas, and Easter. So there's many things you can do. The one in the middle is a living Via Crucis, also very much in our culture, making a representation of the Passion of our Lord. And that's something that it takes an entire year of preparation. Priests cannot have enough of that resource, because you get to call the men and prepare them for that through catechisms. You will choose the best of them to be Jesus, the worst of them to be Judas. So it's actually an entire year process that truly evangelize and catechize. And whole night adorations. I grew up with that in college. That was a vital part of my formation and my faith. So this is just things that are in the Catholic culture, Hispanic Catholic culture, and organizing them will give you an opportunity to reach out to this demographic. So it is really out of love for our brother, for our neighbor, as God told us that we should be doing all this. Obviously, the marketing campaign, the incentives help to drag our lazy human beings sometimes. And they truly encourage. And as long as they encourage us to that goal, Seal for Souls, we're in the right path. Let me give you another reason for the need of CORE. This is a study that the USCCB just published about the number of parishes in a diocese that offers Hispanic ministry and the number of parishes that they know they have a Hispanic community, but they don't have a Hispanic ministry. And this is because they don't even have enough priests that speak Spanish. They don't even have enough ministries. They don't even have enough commitment from the Hispanics to organize those ministries. They lack leaders like you, like the ones we want to develop, that can help engage those Catholic Hispanic families, that can help them, as Father McGivney helped those immigrant Catholic families of his time to remain in the household of the faith of the church. Likewise, CORE is going to have that same effect in those families. A little exercise here to introduce also the topic of Our Lady of Guadalupe. When the Spaniards arrived and conquered the Aztec Empire, the missionaries were faced with big challenges. Vast territories, different tribes, different cultures within the pre-Hispanic cultures, different languages. And they were tasked with, how do we even start this evangelization? Look at the population of Tenochtitlan, of Mexico City, was probably the most populated city in the world at the time, more than any European city. So how do you even start with this? So the brief exercise to get your practice on a strategy, imagine that there was already a council there, or an evangelization and faith formation team. How will you help these missionaries? Give me 5 ideas of how should we even start to evangelize these people.